Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. It's the institution that has been mandated to help protect the incomes of workers in the country. But are they living up to expectation and ensuring that this is done well? What about the current challenges in the economy, and has that affected their mandate? Well, I'm talking about pensions and SSNIT in Ghana today and pensions. I'm indeed grateful to have the Director General of this scheme to get some answers with respect to how the scheme is performing and whether they are doing their work or not. Doc, thank you so much for your time, and you're welcome to PM Express Business Edition.
Thank you very much,
How are
George.
you doing? It's been a while.
Indeed, you don't look for me.
Where have you been up to?
I've been around. We've been doing our day job, what the nation has entrusted for us to do. As you know, at SSNIT, our major preoccupation is to making sure that there is income security at retirement for Ghanaian workers. So we've been at it, and I think so far it's been good. Of course, it's been challenging. I heard that you had, in your introduction, you were talking about COVID, but we've survived it, and we're soldiering on.
It's interesting you talked about surviving it, and that comes to my main question about COVID and how is SSNIT reposition itself to ensure that you don't lose out on your core mandate in the income security bit, because COVID has had impact on people who are working, people contributions and all the rest. And how is SSNIT itself managing this challenge?
Yes. So I think it is obvious and clear to everybody worldwide, not only in this country but worldwide, that COVID was an unprecedented event. None of us expected it, and it just came upon us like a ton of bricks. But we had to deal with it. So the way, I think the way you test that whether an institution is robust is see how they performed during COVID. I think if you speak to any SSNIT pensioner, they will tell you that as far as SSNIT is concerned, they never experienced COVID. Because during all that period where, people were struggling with payments and their incomes, SSNIT never missed a payment. So from the point of view of our pensioners, it was probably a non-event because for them nothing changed. From us as the managers of the scheme, it was a challenging time. Because if for nothing at all, we had to make sure that our systems are up and working, that we could even work through the lockdown. Then from the point of view of collection of contributions and making sure that people are remitting their contributions, it was a bit challenging because, certain industries were very much affected. In fact, the hospitality industry was the first that was badly hit. Then it went all the way to schools, and schools were shut down for a long time. And some businesses basically went down. And when they have these challenges, cash flows challenges, payment of contributions become a bit difficult. And so we had to make some concessions, or we had to relax some of the rules in terms of the timeous remittance of contributions, and forgiving, penalties and so on for those who qualify to be forgiven. So we had to restructure to give some flexibility to the contributor, because when their business thrives, it is only when their business thrives that they engage workers for them to pay contributions on their behalf. And so we had to work with them to make sure that we find a happy medium where the two parties or stakeholders can thrive together. But I must say that we've been through it. I think I'd like to say that the worst is over for us. And now we have to ride on the growth or the recovery of the economy and then get back on track.
Because I was coming to the question about how you managed to deal with the situation, but you've spoken about it. But then somebody also asked that then, did you build enough buffers to withstand these shocks? Because it appears that you're telling me that, listen, George, we didn't default on our contributions or our remittances or our payments to these pensioners. But then it has to mean that you have built the right reserves, if I should use that expression.
Yeah, I think that any, robust pension fund has to have enough liquid assets to ride them through challenging times. Now there is a question of how long can you ride the challenges, right? So the answer is yes. We had enough buffer to be able to ride through it. I mean, if you were to ask me, could you ride through it if there was a whole year of shutdown? That would be a little bit challenging, because if you have to liquidate certain assets, it's not everything that is liquid. But you plan for a certain certain levels of disruptions, and then you hope that when you go through your stress testing, the worst case that you consider, you don't experience stuff that is beyond the worst case. But yes, we do think about making sure that we have at least a liquid buffer to ride us through certain periods.
I know COVID has hit everyone, but there are people who want to use COVID also as an excuse. You talked about how you've given people the flexibility and all the rest. How are you dealing with companies who, George Wiafe and Co., have deducted monies from my worker's salary that I'm supposed to make the payments to you? All the records show that I have done this deduction. This is not a company that has even gone down or they've laid off workers and all the rest. And I'm still using COVID as an excuse not to advance those monies to SSNIT.
Well, George, the reliefs that we gave were limited reliefs. It was things like, during lockdown, when you hadn't deployed all of our electronic payment channels, and so you require people to even walk to offices to pay or walk to your partner banks to pay. That's one. So those ones, you give them a reprieve. Then for industries that were worse hit, and I've mentioned hospitality industry and schools and so on, when they demonstrate that they got into this situation, because of COVID, and that they were also in good standing. You're talking about using COVID as an excuse. If you were in good standing before COVID, and you could demonstrate that COVID, affected your business, then we have something to talk about. But if you were not in good standing before COVID, and then I think COVID hit, so you are going to use COVID as an excuse for not remitting your contributions or to evade, penalties. Those ones we did not fall into, what we considered as qualified reasons why you should get relief. So if George Wiafe and Co. is employing workers and it's failing to remit the contributions which George Wiafe and Co. has deducted from the contributors' paycheck, then we have compliance officers that visit your premises, go through the books, and then check what you've done versus what we have. And if we find out that you haven't lived up to your obligations towards your employees, then we engage you and make sure that you pay. And that we do by serving you demand notices and convincing you that is your duty to pay. And then if after a few tries you are still recalcitrant, then the state have given us the law courts and given us the mandate to take you to court for you to be compelled to fulfill your obligation to your workers.
DJ, I asked this question because of sometimes you realize that a lot of people have worked long years and they realize on pension that there are deductions made, and the George Wiafe and Co. here again failed to make those payments. And I cite this simple example about firms that are doing well, and there's always this excuse, and a typical example is about VAT. VAT is a consumption tax. You are collecting the taxes on behalf of the state. There has been a purchase. You have taken that tax on behalf of the state. Then you're refusing to pay to the state with the excuse that business is not doing well. But there has been a purchase, and that tax has been paid to you. So there can be an excuse made for corporate institutions or firms that are struggling. But there are a lot of businesses out there that are taking these contributions from workers' salary, and they are failing to pay to SSNIT. What is SSNIT doing about this?
Okay, so two things. As a contributor to SSNIT, one of the things that we've deployed, which also allow you to make sure that you are also taking your destiny into your own hands, is that every quarter we send out contribution statements. Okay. So when we send these out, and for those who are SSNIT contributors that have not seen or received any of their statements, it is most likely because your email address with us is not current. So if you are watching us tonight, and then you realize that you have never received your statement, please contact us, and then we'll make sure that we update your address and everything and you get it. But once you have your statement, it will show you whether your employer is paying contributions on your behalf or not. Or at least if your employer is telling SSNIT that you are working there and that these are your salaries and those salaries are being insured. So if you are not seeing that, then it is your obligation to reach out to us. You can do so nicodemously through any of your channels, contact channels, and then we will make sure that we enforce that compliance on your behalf. That is the case where you are working there and you don't see that a contribution has been filed on your behalf. Now, for the employer who has deducted these contributions and has not remitted, we also will look at the payments that we are supposed to be receiving from that employer. So if those payments are not coming, that is where we send our compliance officers to those premises. In fact, the law mandates us to do so and serve a demand notice, tell the employer, this is how much you owe, this is when it was supposed to be paid, it is so many months overdue, and hence this is how much the bill has come to and you have to pay. When we do that and you don't comply, it is only then that we will resort to compulsion from the courts. But I must say that, pension is not something that employers and employees alike should be toying with. In fact, George, the thing that we run here, this income security insurance scheme, for me, it is employers should look at SSNIT and work with us because we are taking all the risks, post-retirement.
Are you making
risk.
it easier for them to work with you?
Yes, we are making it easier for them to work with us. Now, the point I was making here was that, some employers look at us and they say, oh, SSNIT is a nuisance, we are taking money from them. And all. Well, for the amount of money that they pay, we assume income replacement for life. They could say that, okay, if I was not joining SSNIT, I have an obligation to my employees, and so I'm going to take care of all those liabilities, post-retirement liabilities. But I can tell you that it is cheaper for that employer to offlay that risk and those obligations to SSNIT for the contributions that they pay than if they have to fund all of it themselves. So that's one. Now you're asking me whether we've made it easier for them to work with us. Yes, we have. Right now, as an employer, you don't have to come to us, meaning physically to our premises, to even make your payments. You can file your contribution reports online through our portal. And once it gets validated online, and then once it's validated, you can click pay, because we've launched this thing called the SSNIT Pay, which is a payment platform. You can click pay, and the money can be taken from your bank account, straight paid to SSNIT. You don't have to go to through any of our partner banks. In the past, you had to, then take your validated advice and go to a partner bank or one of our offices to go and pay. But right now, in the comfort of your office, you can just do click and pay using the SSNIT Pay. And, everything is so seamless now. So yes, we've made it easier for employers to work with us.
Look, when I come back, I'll be getting more from you. Whilst we drum the trumpet or push for people to also meet their obligations to SSNIT, SSNIT also meeting its obligations to those who've contributed to the scheme, efficiency, using these funds, and even the payment. Now that there's tier 2 and all the rest, I mean, there's someone saying that, listen, we could have gotten better from SSNIT. We'll be getting that. And also, this whole thing about diving into the informal space and why that interest. It's PM Express Business Edition as we look at SSNIT and pensions in Ghana today. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. You're talking about pension. Well, sometimes you think it's remote and you never get there until you realize that you're 60 years old. And the institution that is playing a very critical role when it comes to having a secured future or income security is SSNIT. And I'm engaging its Director General, Dr. Freighting. Doc, thank you so much for your time. So whilst we put pressure on the George Wiafe and Co. to meet its obligations to SSNIT, what about SSNIT itself? How are you ensuring that these contributions are safe when time is due? I won't be asked, and I'll be looking at the Ghana card and the biometrics and all those things that you've done to ensure that you're making the payment to the right person. But how are you also meeting your obligations to people who have contributed to this scheme when their time is due and are not be asked to bring all sort of documentations to qualify for these payments?
Yeah. Thank you very much, George. I think that, when you're a financial institution and when you are dealing with people's money, you don't even have to be an institution. There is a certain level of, you have a certain level of fiduciary responsibility and some level of expectation that the people have of you, because nobody wants to give you their money and then not know what is in it for them. Yeah. So the question I think that you are getting us to me to answer is, what is it that, how are we making sure that our customers or our members and clients who give us their money are satisfied?
Yeah.
Satisfied not only by virtue of how they interact with us when they interact with us in terms of ease of interaction, but also satisfied by virtue of getting value for the money that they give to us.
Yeah.
And I think those are two very important questions. Now, how are we making sure that they are satisfied vis-a-vis their interaction with us? I think that one of the things that we've done in recent past is to prioritize the way we deliver service. In fact, I've mentioned about being transparent and making sure that people are getting their statements, not only via emails, but we've also opened up various communication channels. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, Twitter, all the social media channels. We have a WhatsApp line and a contact center for customers, members, and clients to reach out to us and tell us what their issues are. And then we make sure that we resolve them as quickly as we can. And I've told you how we've also made it easier for employers to deal with us so that they can remit. Now the question is SSNIT.
Yeah.
What are you doing for them? Yeah. What is in it for them,
Yeah.
right? So the SSNIT scheme is an insurance scheme. And it's for no reason, it's not by accident that we are called Social Security and National
Insurance Trust.
National Insurance,
Yeah.
right? Trust. Okay. So we are an insurance company, so to speak. And one may ask, what is it? What do we insure? In fact, a lot of people in the past have thought of SSNIT as, oh, SSNIT is an investment scheme. When I take my money there, they invest my money and I get my money back. Yeah. No. I think it's a wrong way to think about it, because our name even gives it away. Social Security and National Insurance Trust. What do we insure? We insure people's incomes, right? So we ask you that, look, whilst you are working, you pay a premium. Come to us, pay your premium. That premium insures the income that you have declared to us. And then when you retire, okay, when you turn 60, and if you are working in a hazardous environment, you can come at 55. And even if you are not in a hazardous environment, and you can also come at 55, but with some reductions. Okay. When you qualify under those conditions, we will replace that income for you for life. Okay? So on that one, I am happy to tell you that since we started, SSNIT started, we have never missed a payment. Okay? And these payments are increased every year, just like when you are working and you get annual increases. So that's one. That obligation we've satisfied. The second one is that when you are a member of the SSNIT scheme, for the same premium that you come to pay, we give you life insurance. I mean, other people will go and buy life insurance elsewhere, people who are not even joining SSNIT, they have life insurance. Why? Because they think that one day the unthinkable may happen and they may leave, they may be called early. In SSNIT parlance, may I call it that God pensions you early. In which case, you deserve a pension. Because you didn't ask to go early. But people think that, when the good Lord calls you, you need to leave something behind for your survivors. Same with the SSNIT scheme. For the same premium that you pay, if you die in service, right, and you have made, for the past 3 years to the occurrence of the death, you have made 12 months of contributions. So 1 year out of 3 years, you qualify to be paid, for your survivors to be paid a survivor's benefit. It's interesting because what this means is that you have a 2-year grace period. You can miss payments for 2 years, and you still qualify. Whereas in the private, if you went to a private life insurance company, you cannot even miss a month payment, because if you miss it, it's gone. We've been consistently paying survivors' benefits to those who qualify since SSNIT has been in force. We've never missed that payment. Okay. There's a third one, which doesn't even, I don't know any company in this country that offers this kind of protection, which is protection for invalidity. So what this means is that if you are a SSNIT contributor in good standing means that you've been, for the past 3 years, prior to the occurrence of the sickness or the injury or the event that rendered you invalid, permanently invalid and incapable of any gainful employment, and is certified by doctors, then SSNIT has an obligation to pay you a pension until death, irrespective of how old you are. So as long as you're a member in good standing, having made 1 year out of the last 3 years prior to the occurrence of the death, you qualify for disability or invalidity insurance benefit, which is regular monthly benefits on monthly payments increased annually until death. So for these 3 obligations that we have, George, I'm happy to say that we are on track. We've never defaulted, delayed payments, and all the rest. And we're talking about service. As our obligation, we also want to make sure that we take the wahala. People don't go through a lot of wahala before they get what is due them. So how efficient is our claims process? How efficient is the documentation, and so on and so forth. That's where the Ghana card comes in. But we currently, within 2 weeks, on the average, we process pensions. So the days of go and come, I've been chasing my pension for 3 years, it hasn't come, all these are gone.
What influenced this whole plan of this biometrics and all? Because now we have Ghana card. Have we moved on? Because you still hear pockets of people who are saying that I am struggling to access my funds because of the process to identify me is a challenge.
George, you know, citizen identification or personal identification has been a problem in this country. There are many people walking around with multiple identities. In fact, if you look at even the way we name our people, meaning I don't know whether you are Kwame Wiafe, but I'm sure if you go around this country, you see a lot of Kwame Wiafes around, right? And those are their legitimate names. And sometimes you won't even be surprised if you find another Kwame Wiafe who was born the same day as you in terms of your date of birth. So identifying citizens and hence by extension identifying SSNIT contributors, you know, has been a challenge in the past. And in fact, I think back in 2012 or 13 thereabouts, SSNIT embarked on trying to identify their members through biometrically. And that's when SSNIT started launching their biometric cards. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Because in the past, those cards that were being issued, they were fully being issued and funded and paid for by SSNIT, which was a huge overhead cost for us. Times have changed by, you know, the good works of His Excellency the President. He launched the Ghana card. Yeah. And the Ghana card has been issued invariably to all citizens and non-citizens of working age, okay, I understand 15 and above. So now, each citizen in this country or non-citizen, each worker has a biometric identity card. So we thought about how we take advantage of this development and in trying to make our operations efficient, and we asked our members to merge their Ghana card numbers with their SSNIT numbers so that effectively your Ghana card number becomes your SSNIT number. Okay? So with one Ghana card, you come to SSNIT, and once it's linked, if you're a previous contributor or pensioner and it's linked to your account, we don't need to use that old Ghana card or old SSNIT card again. That your Ghana card is enough to do all the business that you need to do with SSNIT. So we've done it, we've rolled it out, we've merged, and I would say a substantial number of our members, higher than 80% of them have merged their Ghana cards. So now when you come to us, all you need is your Ghana card. This allows us to easily and quickly identify our members. And not only that, what is going to happen is also that, you see, when you, the member, you pass away, and we had your biometrics, right? We had your Ghana card or your SSNIT card. But now we need to pay benefits to your survivors. And those survivors, in the past, we did not have their biometrics. So it's now that we have to adjudicate who is Kwame Wiafe and who is George Wiafe, right? Because we didn't have their biometrics. So those survivor claims used to take quite a bit of time. Now with the Ghana card, we are asking our members also to come and update their beneficiary list, and then they will put their Ghana cards on there. Now I know that we haven't issued Ghana cards yet to young people, but that is also in the works. The state will do that. So they'll get to a point where all beneficiaries will have their Ghana card numbers there. So when there is a time for you to come and make a claim, and you come and you will take your Ghana card, we can verify you and say you are actually the George Wiafe that your father or mother puts on as a beneficiary. And instantly we can.
And if I get it right, it has impacted greatly on your operations and even the
very much so.
As well.
Very much so.
Cut down a huge number of costs.
Very much so.
Well.
At least for cost, we don't have to issue these cards again. I mean, we used to pay quite a bit of money. I think it was around $7 a card, something like that. But now, we don't have to foot that bill.
backtracking a little bit about the compliance thing, do you think that you should be doing more to ensure that every company contributor, especially with the companies who have deducted, they make is the court thing enough?
Well, you know, I have a philosophy that if you have a business and your business is based on forced patronage,
Yeah.
that business doesn't have very bright growth prospects. If I'm coming to your store to buy because somebody is forcing me, or the assemblyman in the area has made a law that George Wiafe's store is the only one that we have to go and buy our milk, you know, you're not going to get a lot of customers.
Yeah.
I think that the business should, you know, show how good it is so that the customers who patronize it come willingly. So, yes, the law has its place and it makes it mandatory
Yeah.
for employers to pay contributions for their employees. And if they don't do so, we're supposed to then make sure that they comply
To the court.
by virtue of the law. And that we do.
Are you
Okay.
doing? Are you
That
doing
we-
that? Some will say, "Are you
Yeah.
doing that much?" Some will say, "Is that
That we do. We take people to court.
Are you doing that?
Yes, we have Saturday calls that have been set out for just SSNIT
And are you doing
cases.
that?
Yes, we do.
We had a lot of companies go through to
Oh,
get
yes.
the
I mean,
recalcitrant ones.
recently you've probably seen, I think the last week or so, there was an article that I read that a bench warrant had been issued for some MD of a company to be arrested and so on and so forth, right? So we do that. But George, I think, talking about false patronage, my belief, and this is what I try to push down to my staff, is that the product that we have is so good in itself that if people understand it, right, both contributors, both employees,
Yeah.
and employers alike, like the HR in various companies, if they understand what it is that we are giving to their employees for the monies that they are supposed to pay, and they see the value in it, right, they themselves will willingly comply. Because if the employee, I can tell you one thing,
Yeah.
SSNIT here, if I don't pay people's SSNIT contributions, because we are also an employer.
Okay. And
Right?
you do that. You pay them. You
Right?
pay as well.
If I
you
don't,
do that as well.
yes, they are employees. The employees here are just any employee. They could quit tomorrow
Maybe
and come.
sometimes you forget about yourself
No,
and all work.
they could quit tomorrow and come and work at your shop.
Yeah.
Right? They are not beholden to work at SSNIT.
Yeah.
So we as an employer have to treat them as employees, and so we pay their SSNIT. But because they understand the benefits of the SSNIT scheme, if I were to miss a SSNIT payment, the wahala that would happen here, I won't be able to take it. Because the employees know the benefit, right? And then as an employer, I also know, right, the benefits of that to me as an employer. I'm not talking from the point of view that I'm SSNIT managing SSNIT, but as an employer, I have employees whose welfare we have to take care of. Many institutions, when you go there, they have provident funds.
Yeah.
Who forces them to make a provident fund? Is it some law that forces them?
No.
Probably not. But they realize that they have to do a provident fund, right? Because they know what is in
Yeah.
it for them,
Yeah.
right? In the same way, they need to understand what is in it for them vis-a-vis the SSNIT scheme.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think you mentioned sometime in your early submission that we're going into informal sector
Yeah.
and so on
And
and so
we'll
forth.
be coming
Yes.
to that as well.
Those people, they are not obligated by law to join us.
Yeah.
So if we are going to reach them, then it has to be on the strength of the value, the product that we offer. So I like to look at it two ways. One, the law has its place, and we will apply the law when we need to.
Recalcitrant ones.
Yes, to the recalcitrant ones. But I think our major posture should be to try and educate employees and then employers alike so that they themselves will remain. And I must tell you, there are companies that we never have to go and serve them any demand notice. They remit like clockwork because they understand.
Doc, what do you tell those who complain a lot and we see their contribution, sometimes 200, 300, just like what I said before, that cannot even take you home or even your transport. What is happening? Is SSNIT not taking care of these people well? Why has it happened that way? Help me, educate me and the public out there about why some people are taking home those peanuts. Is it because of their contributions, or SSNIT is not investing their monies well to give them some good returns?
Okay, so I assume you are talking about the pensions that we pay to members, not the contributions.
No, the pension you pay to members.
Pensions.
Yeah.
Very well. Okay. So, George, I said at the beginning of our interview that we are an insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay? And when you do insurance, you have an asset that is valuable to you, right?
Yeah.
Be it your car, be it your house. Okay? And your car has many models. Your house have many types of houses. It could be a one-bedroom, it could be a mansion, it could be a story building. And you take that asset to an insurance company and says, I want protection on this so that when I lose it, you replace it for me. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take your Kia Picanto to the insurance company, they will assess for you, oh, this is our premium, and for SSNIT, the premium is 13.5% of the value. And they will say, pay that. And in exchange for that, if your car were to be stolen or to get burnt, we're going to replace that car for you. If your boss or your friend took his or her Mercedes-Benz or Land Cruiser to that same insurance company and paid the requisite premium, when that same event that happened to you happens to that person will get their car, which is a Mercedes-Benz or a Land Cruiser, replaced for them. So pensions received are not the same. The premiums, everybody goes and pay the same premium, the same percentage, in this case 13.5% of the amount you want to insure, to the insurance company. And the insurance company's obligation is to replace that on which the requisite premium has been paid. So, the same pension scheme that we are running today, just to bring it home. Today is what, Thursday?
Yeah.
I think today is the third Thursday of the month.
15th.
Yes. So, which means that today, a lot of people are going to see kaching in their bank accounts. Because today we pay pensions. Third Thursday of the month. Today, somebody is going to get 50,000 Ghana cedis.
How is the person getting that?
In their account. How's the person getting that?
Yeah.
Well, the person was driving a Mercedes-Benz and he insured a Mercedes-Benz.
So if I get, it's based on your contributions.
It's based on your income.
If you get more and you're paying more to SSNIT.
It is based on the income that you are earning on which you went to pay the requisite contributions.
So the 200 and the 300 is because you were not paying much to SSNIT?
Okay, so let's look at something. Right now, as at April this year, I'm not talking ancient history, I'm talking now. When I looked at the people who had come to SSNIT to insure their incomes, would you be surprised if I tell you that almost about a quarter of the people who came to insure their incomes at SSNIT, about 25%, said their incomes were between minimum wage, which is about 400 Ghana cedis a month, and 500 Ghana cedis a month. So they came to SSNIT and they said, this is the income that I am earning that I want you to protect for me.
400, 500.
500.
A month.
A month. By the time you get to 800 Ghana cedis a month, you are almost getting to maybe 45% of the people who come to seek some form of protection. This is the protection that they are seeking. And so they come and they pay the 13.5% of that. Okay? Now, let's do some quick mathematics here. If the policy, the SSNIT policy, which is an act of parliament, says that if you come and insure your incomes with us for a period of 35 years, we will replace that income, the highest amount that you came to insure with us, will replace 60% of that as your starting pension pay for life. So you gave us 13.5% for a period of 35 years. We will give you on increasing balances, because when you start working, you start with a small salary and it grows over time. So you pay 13.5% on that. Then we are committed to pay you 60% of that starting and increase it for life. So bring 13.5 and we'll give you 60. Right? You can see the value there, right there. Right? Now, if I'm telling you that somebody is bringing 500 Ghana cedis in April, and this person is close to retirement, maybe let's say the person is retiring this year, okay? And even the person has been with us for 35 years, okay? He's entitled to 60%, correct? So 60% of 500 is 300 Ghana cedis. Yeah. So if the person gets 300 Ghana cedis, would you say that SSNIT has cheated the person 300 Ghana cedis per month to be increased until death? So and for those who brought 400, 60% of 400 is 240 Ghana cedis, right? Yeah. 6424. Yeah. And for these people, SSNIT has a minimum pension that we pay, which is 300 Ghana cedis. So we have to subsidize, put another 60 Ghana cedis on top of that to bring it up to 300. So the same scheme, somebody is coming to insure 40,000 Ghana cedis. That's at April.
And it's happening. Somebody is paying that.
Somebody will come and insure 5,000. Somebody will come and insure 15,000. Somebody will come and insure 10,000. I don't know how much you are coming to insure.
Yeah.
But you should go and check out. So now it is clear that what you come to insure determines what you are going to be, what needs to be replaced by contract.
Doc, I'll be looking at the informal sector that SSNIT is venturing into that space. And why are you going to that space? And also, the concerns have been raised about prudent management of these funds, investment. How are you ensuring that there's good return on these monies? This is PM Express Business Edition. As we look at SSNIT and pensions in Ghana today, take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. As we talk about pensions and SSNIT, the foremost institution that is supposed to help with protecting your income security as a pensioner if you contribute to the scheme. But Doc, I mean, it's interesting that it raises a lot of questions about salary levels in this country. And sometimes it's not even because the people are not being paid well, but what is being declared by the employer. You have a situation where somebody is taking like 20,000, but maybe 15,000 is captured in allowance, or maybe even 16,000 in allowance, and just declaring just 2,000, and pensions is being paid on that. That is quite serious.
Well, George, that's why. Okay, so that's why we have to have these conversations, and that is why the viewers, I can come straight into the homes of the viewers and let them know what the value proposition
is. You think you need to be more aggressive on this education?
Well, yes, I think people need to know.
Are you doing that?
Because I'll tell you something. I used to work in the United States. Yeah. And there, when somebody was taking a job, one of the first questions they ask is, what's my pension going to be like? There they have this thing they call 401k. It's some kind of a pension savings scheme. They will ask you, how much is the company going to match? Because the company gives matching funds. So people ask these questions, okay? I don't think we do that enough in this country. Because if you are an employee and you are looking for a job and you think your pension is important to you, then you ask those questions, even if you are considering offers, right? You may think, oh, okay, part of the consideration may be that this one will give me a better pension than the other. In fact, I'm sure you've heard of institutions where people will say, oh, as for this institution, they have a very good pension.
Yeah.
You've heard that.
A lot of them.
Right?
A lot of them.
And they don't focus so much on their salary, but the pension becomes the thing that people know about. That if you work for this company, you'll have a good pension.
People move there when they are getting to the old age.
Yes.
They get a good retirement package.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the workforce have to be, astute, and they have to be knowledgeable about pension. And that is why I think the conversation that you and I are having is very important. Now, the law that we operate under currently, unfortunately, says that pensions where employers are obligated to pay pensions on basic salary. Yeah. Okay? And so that gives room for people to do all kinds of gymnastics as to what is basic, but rather than your total remuneration, right? Yeah. And I think that is something that has to change. And
you think it has to be?
Yes. And we at SSNIT have been
proposal?
Yeah, we are working on possible amendments to our act, which we will table before our board and MPRA and the tripartite, and eventually it will make its way to Parliament, and those things can be changed.
Before the end of this year?
You know how this process goes.
But hopefully
we've done our part.
We've
done our part. So we're going to push it from us to MPRA and then to the tripartite, and then those things can go on. So, yes, what you are going to get will depend on what you came to insure. So if you are working for an employer and you look at your pay slip, and you see that pay slip has only, 2,000 Ghana cedis as your basic salary on which SSNIT is paid. You can see it on your pay slip. Yeah. And then you have 4,000 as allowance, and the car allowance, and this as house allowance, and all of that. Salary. All those things. Then, you know what your retirement is going to look like. Okay? But what we are doing right now is that we are encouraging employers and employees alike to dialogue and make sure that they come and insure their full earnings. Insure your full earnings with SSNIT so that we can replace your full earnings with for you. You cannot come and insure part of your full earnings with SSNIT, a fraction, and then we will also replace that fraction with you. And then when you go on retirement and all those benefits are gone, because you are no more in active employment, and you only get that fraction, a fraction of that fraction, then you say, oh, my pension is small.
Doc, the push to review this basic thing and the law comes back to the question about push for reviewing the pension age. In Paris or in France, there's been a big debate out there, and also the question about sustainability of the scheme. First one, the bit about the pension age. Do you think that there's a linkage when I may be retired, maybe at 65, I can contribute more to the pool to improve my benefit? What is your take on that one?
Okay, so from my point of view as the administrator of the pension scheme, now I said to you in our conversation that when you retire, we pay you for life. So the longer you live, the more we have to pay. And you make a contribution up to a certain point for a defined period. And then we have to take the risk for an undefined period, right? So if people are retiring early and living longer, right, then the obligation on us as administrators of the scheme there's a higher obligation. Okay? One, because we have to pay longer, and two, because during the time that they were working, they didn't contribute long enough. Okay? So increasing a retirement age, for example, would definitely make the scheme more robust. Okay? And it could even increase the percentage of the salary that we replace because you've paid in more, right? And our own empirical evidence, and when I say that, I mean the people, you see, we've been running this pension scheme for a long time.
Yeah.
And we track when people die because we pay survivors benefits, and also we have to deactivate pensioners when they are dead above a certain age. So we have a rich history, rich knowledge, data on how long people contribute and how long they live.
Your data I saw recently suggests that people are living a lot more longer.
Very much so. Very much so. Our data shows that people are living longer. At least SSNIT contributors and pensioners SSNIT pensioners are living longer. So when you come up with a pension scheme, which are laws which were crafted, in the 60s and 70s, when the life expectancy was low, and now life expectancy has increased due to advancement in medical technology, standard of living. It's only makes sense that at some point we sit down and look at how long people work before they retire.
And the trust support that proposal that it should be looked at. The trust
definitely. We support that it has to be looked at.
Make the scheme more robust as well. There are some who've also expressed concerns about the sustainability of the scheme going forward as well. Are these concerns well placed, or listen, just like any scheme around the world, it has to go undergo reforms?
Yes. The concerns are well placed. They are well placed because our scheme part of our scheme relies on contract of generations, which that means is that the scheme is partially funded, meaning you, the insured, you only pay for only a fraction of the benefits that you earn, meaning even including investment returns. What we get from you is only a fraction on the average of what we have to pay you. So there is a gap that needs to be filled from one generation to the other. Now, that generation has to be a working generation, right? They have to have jobs and so on and so forth. So you have to have an economy that is growing. You have to have a population that is not old, such that everybody is on pension, nobody is working, and so on and so forth. So for a defined benefit scheme like the one we are operating, question of sustainability is always a question that you have to deal with. And so SSNIT is no different than any other such scheme that is in the world. So when people talk about sustainability of the scheme, it is nothing new. Right? It's asking whether you are going to eat tomorrow. I mean, everybody has to eat. And it's an issue that you have to deal with. You have to find out what you're going to eat tomorrow.
What do you think can be done to ensure that this scheme is sustainable going forward? In 50 years' time and all the rest, that we can still pride ourselves as having one of the finest trusts in Africa here.
Right. So look, I always say that when these questions are asked, I always say, well, first you look inside, right? We, the managers of the scheme, have to make sure that we are doing the right thing, right? You are got to make sure that people are straightforward, they are doing their job professionally, with all the highest ethical standards and so on and so forth, right? Because even if I give you 1 billion Ghana cedis, and you're not competent and you don't do your work professionally, you can squander it, right? Yeah. So we have to make sure that we got our house in order and our systems are in place and making sure that things are working. Now, having said that, then you need to look at the essence of the way the scheme is designed and make sure that the inputs are coming in. So the scheme will thrive on the monies that have come in. You have to invest them well, so you have to have good investments, okay, to bridge part of the gap, but it doesn't cover the full gap. You got to make sure that you got more workers coming in to contribute, right? Because that part, which is rely on a contract of generations, where one group of young people pay for part of the pensions of the older ones, that has to be sustained. So you have to make sure that your economy is growing. You have to make sure that within the economy itself, if there are people who are working and are not part of your scheme, you bring them in to increase the contributor base so that this thing can go on forever. Now, for us, until such a point that your population is too old. Now, the good thing for us in Ghana and in Africa in general is that we have a very young population. We're not like Japan or some other developed countries where their population is old. So we have a young population which needs to be put to work. And for that young population that are also working, which has in our country, there's a lot of them that are doing their own business, though they are self-employed, who the law does not mandate them to join. We need to make sure that they are also part of the scheme. And all of that together is going to make the scheme.
And that's coming back to look at this seed campaign thing that you're embarking on. But investment, people have raised concerns about SSNIT and investment. They think that SSNIT has too much money splashing them around and all the rest. What do you tell people who raise these concerns about investment?
I think those concerns are sometimes overblown. They are good concerns, but sometimes it becomes a red herring for something else. A red herring for somebody to say, oh, you know, because my pension was small, without delving into why it was small, SSNIT is not good.
Yeah.
Okay? Oh, because I drove around and I saw a building that they found out to be SSNIT investment, and maybe that building doesn't have the required level of occupancy, and maybe it's in a little bit of a state of disrepair. Oh, that is because of that, SSNIT is not good.
Yeah.
Right? All of us go to church.
Yeah.
Sometimes the pastor may do something that doesn't really rise to the level of holiness. But because you know that there is salvation, you don't say that, okay, I'm not going to church anymore. So you go and seek out your own salvation. In fact, the scripture even tells us, each one of us, work out your own salvation. So you look at SSNIT and you look at SSNIT investment. There are a lot of insurance companies around. And I've told you, SSNIT, we are an insurance company. Yeah. All those insurance companies, when they take your premiums that you pay, what do they do to it?
To invest.
They invest it.
Yeah.
Do you know what their investment portfolio looks like? No.
Yeah.
Why don't you know? Probably because you don't care.
Because maybe you trust that they're going to do a good job. But
yes,
again, you look at some investment that SSNIT had made over the years, and not to pin anything down to you as a person, and we know the outcome of those investments.
And the reason why you trust them,
too much money, and you are splashing
so the reason why you trust those insurance companies is that when you go and you make your claim, they pay that claim. I submit to you, that is the only reason you trust them. So because you know, now you haven't heard that insurance company has not been paying claims, you think they are okay, in good standing. In fact, if you hear that there is a particular insurance company that hasn't paid their claims, in fact, when you are choosing your insurance company, you don't send your business there, right? So all these companies, they have investment portfolios. Some of them go bad. I submit to you that if you look right now at the portfolios of many insurance companies and banks, there are some investments that are impaired. So is SSNIT. Okay? So SSNIT also would have investments. Some of them may not be doing as well. The question is, what is the level of the impairment or the non-performing investments? Okay? Because we are a public institution, we have to have full disclosure. And so the full disclosure comes out, whether it comes out in an Auditor General report or whatever, and then people get to pick it apart. Yeah. So that's something we have to deal with. Yeah. But the point I'm making is that every investment may have some that go bad. Yes, SSNIT is not immune to that. That notwithstanding, SSNIT has never defaulted on its obligations. And so SSNIT, that should not be the reason why somebody says, I am not going to take advantage of this great income replacement scheme, which has benefits way beyond what these people could have done with their contributions. Because one thing that we've done, and this is an empirical evidence, is that if you were to take your contributions, And then you say, okay, I don't like SSNIT. So me, what am I going to do? I'm just going to take my destiny into my own hands.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest it in treasury bills.
Myself, yeah.
Right? Which is a reasonable thing to do, because for a long-term investment, you want something that is secure. So we have said, okay, taking a sample of pensioners, and we've invested retroactively, taking their contributions and synthetically invested all those contributions in treasury bills. Don't charge them any fees. Roll it every quarter. Yeah, all of you, my viewers, they've been playing this game. You buy it, it matures, you take the interest and the principal, you buy another T-bill and so on, and keep rolling it. And then you look at how much money that has amounted to when you turn 60. That gives you a certain lump sum. Then we said, okay, these people, we know them. We've been paying them pensions. So take every pension payment that we've made to them, discount it back, and add all of it so that it could amount to a certain lump sum at age 60. So now you're comparing what they gave you if you had invested it in T-bills, compounded every quarter, and what we have paid them as a lump sum at age 60. So we're comparing the same amounts of money. I'll tell you something. The analysis that we did, I think we did it for about maybe 7,000, 8,000 pensioners, randomly sampled. It shows that for people who had been on SSNIT pension for about 12 years, which is age 72, they were getting about twice the money that they could have done for themselves, twice. By the time you get to 80, I think it was about 5 times, and so on and so forth. Right? And I'm looking at it another way. We said, if you had taken that money as a lump sum, which is your contributions invested with T-bills compounded quarterly, and then we ask you to pay yourself every month what SSNIT pays you out of that amount. So what you should have done is that you take that money, you put it in a T-bill again, and then every month you keep on withdrawing. The average time for exhaustion of that money was about 9 years. So by the time you are 69, if you are taking your destiny into your own hands, all money gone.
Doc, have you taken steps, or are you taking steps as we speak right now to review some of these investments? I know that in some space, industry, hospitality, the banking sector is giving you some interesting and good returns. What is the strategy now in terms of reviewing some of these investments going forward to still make a lot for the scheme?
So a lot of the investments, the ones that become problematic, another, you yourself said that the banking space had been good and all that stuff. Oh, okay, until recently, because we're not getting the dividends. But however, the parts that are problematic are the housing and investments that have been made.
And are you going to review?
Those are the ones that are problematic.
Yeah.
So what our policy now is that we should try and, finish and sell the ones that we have already, we are involved in, then take that money and then deploy quite a bit of that money into fixed income instruments.
Okay.
Because, as our scheme matures, we need more liquidity. It's very difficult to sell a building.
Yeah.
If this was COVID time and you wanted funds and you wanted to sell a building, you'll be there, you can't sell. So we need to rejig our portfolio and make sure that we introduce quite a bit of liquid assets in it and all that. But all those, suboptimal investments in real estate, which is currently even suffering more because of the downturns in the economy, those are all being reviewed.
And it will see you getting out of those space, manufacturing space and all the rest, reduce your exposure to these sectors.
We're not very too much into manufacturing.
But hospitality.
Yes, hospitality. In fact, hospitality, we own a bunch of hotels. So those ones, we are currently going through a process where we're trying to invite private sector participation so that we can get other investors to co-invest with us, and I think that whole thing will make the investments a bit more.
Is the policy going to change, or has the policy changed going forward, as in going forward, this is the new SSNIT when it comes to investment?
We do have an investment policy.
Okay.
Okay, so there's an investment policy there, and I think when you read the investment policy, it's very clear. It's sanctioned by the MPRA, and we have prudential limits on, you know, what you can put in certain asset classes, and even what those asset classes should be. I think the thing is to have the discipline to stick to that investment policy. Some of the right now, some of our assets are out of kilter with what the policy says, and what we need to do is to basically unwind some of those to bring them within the range, and then deploy those funds in places where we are underinvested.
The president himself during the media celebration spoke about the fact that there's a need to take a second look at this whole pension investment where restrict to government bonds and look at more other, so that there can be more expansion into different areas, so that there isn't, the law is not tying anyone into placing funds in government bonds as well. I mean, these are debates the president is trying to let us stimulate and talk about.
Yeah, I mean, government bonds has its place, right? Because they are supposed to be very secure instruments and fixed income instruments. And then, you know, there are corporate bonds too, or fixed income instruments, treasury instruments. Those are short term.
Okay.
But then there are also long term instruments, which are infrastructure and so on, which pension funds invest in. So all those things are part of the investment policy that I have told you about.
Let's look at SSNIT and why this sudden interest in this space. Some are saying that, listen, you have your workers who are doing well, they are contributing. Informal space is quite a turbulent space. Why this sudden interest in trying to bring in those who are in the informal space to contribute to SSNIT?
Okay, so I don't like to call it the informal sector per se. In fact, when you say SSNIT, SSNIT stands for self-employed enrollment drive. So we're trying to reach every worker in this country who is self-employed. In fact, the law, our act mandates us, and it's our duty to make sure that we offer income protection to every worker. So I like to use the word self-employed.
Are they not already contributing to the scheme? Are self-employed
some of them are. Some of them are, but the majority of them are not. We have, I think, some statistics show that there is over 6 million workers who are self-employed in this country. And right now, our contributor base has only 2%, approximately 2% of those people, and which put it in numbers so that you can see the context. So only about 34,000 people that are self-employed, that are contributing to SSNIT. Now, those people come to SSNIT not because of compulsion. It is voluntary. The Act makes it voluntary for them. But they come to SSNIT because they see something good in it for them. And that's why they come to ensure their earnings with SSNIT. If I tell you that today, the person who is going to be paid the highest pension was not somebody who was working for some company or whatever, but the person was a businessman. That is the person who is going to be paid the highest pension today.
Of how much?
Well, you can look at the league table. And
I'll go back and look at
we publish
over 40,000
way more than that. Way more than that. Over 100,000 Ghana cedis, right?
Let's go to an
month.
individual.
Let's go into an individual. Because he came to insure his Mercedes whilst you were coming with your bicycle. So, I mean, it's as simple as that. Don't begrudge him for having that. But that person was self-employed. Okay? So, the self-employed, there is something good here for them. Let me tell you something. I've told you before that the Tier 1 scheme that we are running, which is there are 3 tiers of pensions in this country. That Tier 1 scheme have all these benefits that I said before, invalidity, life insurance, and pension payments for life. Okay? Now, all other pension products, they only pay you a lump sum. Now, the other pension products, what they do is that whatever contribution you bring, they invest it in some instrument for you. And then what you get at the end is your contributions, principal, plus investment returns. Nothing is guaranteed. It is what they get as investment returns on the money that comes to you. Right? So you have to fully fund your returns. Meaning, if you didn't send, the money didn't go, you are not going to get any more money than what they were able to make on your money. So it's fully funded. The one that we are operating is partially funded, and I told you that at the beginning, partially funded, because even part of it, part of your pension benefits, I told you, is being paid from one generation to the other. So your children and your grandchildren may end up paying for part of your pension benefits because you're going to live to the ripe old age of 96 or 97. Okay? So, isn't it ironic that those of us who sit in offices, who are employed by somebody, right? Some employer, and we are part of this scheme, we get part of our pensions paid for by the state. And when I say by the state, the citizens of the state who work then get to pay for part of our pensions, because the benefits that we get, we don't fully fund it. I mean, if you live till 97, 98, and you only contributed to the age of 60, and we're starting with 60% all the way till there, I mean, how are you, who is going to fund that? Okay? So isn't it ironic that we have to have the benefit of taking advantage of this great product, but those people who are self-employed, they have to fully fund their pensions because they are only limiting themselves to the tier 2 and the tier 3.
How are the contributions going to be done in this I just explained the seed, or you see that's the expression because I'm struggling to. Because when I'm working, it's easier for the contributions to be done and all the rest. Again,
because somebody does it on your behalf.
What has been the mode here to pull these people in to make their contributions to the scheme as well?
So there is the first part of that is the onboarding process, right? And the Ghana card has been a lifesaver.
Okay.
Because now all you have to do is to show up with your Ghana card, and then you get onboarded. So with the Ghana card, we already have your biometrics. We tie in with NIA, and all your bio data and everything is downloaded, and we just have to ask you a few questions, and it's easy. Okay. Then when it comes to remitting of contributions, we have various payment platforms. There is a one that I said before, you can go online and you can do your click SSNIT pay and pay. Or we have a USSD code, which is star 711 star 9 hash, star 711 star 9 hash, which gives you a menu to pay as a self-employed person, or even if you are an employer who wants to pay. So you can remit money to SSNIT via mobile money. So you don't have to walk to a SSNIT office or even walk to a partner bank to pay your SSNIT contributions. Because we realize that most of the people who are self-employed, I mean, the person is fully engaged during the whole day, that we have to make it easy for them to be able to pay. So, and then the question about me, if you are, somebody's giving you money for 30 years, they need to see something. And in terms of, there has to be transparency. And that's why they can go online and look at your statement. If you want to look at it 10 times a day, you can go online and look at it. But every quarter, and I guess soon I'll probably make it every month, we will email your statements to you so that you get to see how, you get to track your journey from when you join till retirement.
Doc, this thing is voluntary,
Yes.
and I still push the issue about the informal nature of this, and how are you going to motivate me or that maid servant who is being paid well, I mean, at the end of the month, to be doing these things, because, and also the cost of getting to these people to remind them to contribute as well, and all those things.
Okay, so how do I motivate you? I tell people that, okay, those in the informal sector, right, or the self-employed, maybe the day they retire when they are unable to go to work anymore, right?
They can wake up from bed.
The way they can't go to the store, that's when they retire. And for most of them, if they don't go to the store, they don't have income. For most of them. So I always tell people that, in fact, COVID-19 gave us a very preview of what retirement for some of these people will be like. I told you that for those who were on SSNIT, they probably never saw that there was anything like COVID-19, the pensioners, because everything was seamless and it came. But for those who needed to go out to hustle before they eat, it's a problem, because now you can't go out. Okay, this time you couldn't go out because of COVID, but there will be one day when you can't go out because you just can't. You're old. And so, wouldn't you like to have a situation where if that day comes, you'll be there and every third Thursday of the month, catching, until you die. The same benefits that the man who used to work at, some, whether it's GBC or he was a teacher or broadcasting or those, and who is staying in the same village as you, but they get pension. Those people every month, they get pension. But you, because you were working for yourself and you didn't make any plans, every month there is nothing coming from somewhere. We know those people. You go to your village, you see them, right? Those that have something coming in every month and those who don't. It is this picture that I've painted is what I want people who are self-employed to look at and see that it will happen to them. It's not even whether it can. It will happen to them. But the good news is that they too deserve a pension, and there is a pathway for them to be able to get that.
What is the pull factor on SSNIT's part? I mean, is it just a CSR thing, or is it all part of the sustainability of the scheme? Because some will see that, and I stand to be educated. People think that this is quite a turbulent sector, that, the cost and all the rest. What's the pull factor here?
Well, the factor is this. First of all, it is our job. It's our mandate. Our mandate says that it says into that space. All Ghanaian workers. If you look at our act is that we should make sure that all workers working in Ghana, even including foreigners who have come to Ghana and they are working in Ghana, are covered. That is our national mandate. Okay, so we're not doing this because all of a sudden, something is happening and whatever, right? It's our mandate. It's been there. Now, I think in the past we haven't really done this, paid attention to this, because it's a difficult business. Just like you are now seeing, you yourself are saying, but why are you going through all this? It's not as easy as sitting in your office and every month some company will file a contribution report and says, these are my workers, this is the check, SSNIT, take it. And you sit in your office and you collect that. That's easy business, right? Okay? Yeah. Because you don't even have to go there and service them and explain things to them, because by law, they are supposed to do it. It's easy business. But our mandate is to make sure that all Ghanaian workers are covered. So we have to do the difficult business. And difficult because the law did not compel them to do that. Difficult because in the past there has been some bad rap from people who have said, I went to SSNIT and I was trying to get my money, and 3 years I didn't get it. It's all of that. Okay? But we have to face it head on and make sure that such people are also covered by selling them the benefits that they stand to get. Now, I mentioned to you before that when such people join, this scheme relies on, part of it relies on one generation paying for the other, and you're getting more workers on the scheme. That's what makes it work. So we also have an interest to make sure that the scheme becomes more robust by making sure that we are roping in all workers in Ghana.
It's early days yet, but how has the patronage been for this informal sector space? How has it been since it was launched? I
think the patronage has been good. If I were to tell you that between just about 9 to 11 months ago, when we started doing stakeholder consultations with the various trade groups or informal sector groups, self-employed groups, and now, if I tell you that our enrollment figures in that sector has more than doubled, I think you'd be surprised.
True.
Okay, but
10,000,
we came from a low base when we started. When we started about 11 months ago, right from inception of SSNIT till then, we had only 14,000 people on the scheme. Within a period of 9 to 10 to 11 months, we now have 34,000, which is more than double from the base. Now, it's a small base, I admit, but now that we are rolling out, I mean, we still have some teething issues to deal with in terms of logistics and things like that, but we are out there doing the business. We don't have, people don't meet us with that level of skepticism and rejection that in the past that they used to do. In fact, when we tell them that, how would you like, if I showed somebody the pension payroll today, and that you will see it today on social media, it gets people's attention that there are people getting 50,000 Ghana cedis.
So it is easier to get some.
When you tell somebody that the guy who is getting the 100 and something thousand Ghana cedis is a businessman, it gets their attention. People didn't know that. So there are people getting 20,000 Ghana cedis, and I'm sure it's going to get the attention of people in your studio, right? Every month. But we, in the past, have not done a very good job to tell that story. And so that is what we are doing. Yes, for every business, you need penetration. And it takes a while. And that's why I was happy to appear on your program, because then we can have this conversation and for people to see it. And I'm confident that we are going to...
Doc, as we wrap up this discussion, and people look at tier 2 numbers, and they say that state maybe has to do a lot of work in terms of what they've been able to mobilize and all the rest. And what do you tell those who look at those numbers and say, wow?
I am glad you talked about what they've been able to mobilize.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm glad you talk about what they've been able to mobilize. Why do I say that? Let's not compare apples and oranges. Okay. So, you can mobilize a lot when you don't have to pay out much. Every month, SSNIT, we pay out 300. Today, we're probably going to pay out about 370 odd million Ghana cedis.
Wow.
Okay? So you carry that through the year, you are about over 5 billion you're going to have to pay. Okay? Tier 2, they started collecting monies since 2010. Between 2010 and 2020, they never had to pay out any money. Because unless for people who came on early retirement or something, but most of the people who were eligible to collect, if any at all, started in 2020. So for 10 years, you can accumulate a lot of money. If SSNIT, we were not paying out any benefits for 10 years, right? I would be sitting on maybe 30 billion.
Oh, just.
Right? So the SSNIT scheme has matured, where every month you have people retiring. Every month you have to pay. So yes, you accumulate, but you have to pay it also out. But Tier 2 has accumulated, and it's just now that they're trying to pay out things. So eventually they will settle into some equilibrium. And that equilibrium will not be, the rate of accumulation of assets is not going to be as fast as they have done in the past 10 years.
I'll be coming back to you, your final thought about whether there's more interest in the scheme right now, and for you, how does it help or make your work easier going forward, as your final thought as well? And the bit about contributions, and just help me out as well, has government been meeting its honoring its contributions and payments to the scheme as well for the public sector workers? They have been doing that, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, contributions are filed on their behalf, and then we collect. And so this year has been good. We're on track.
What are you doing in your final words as you wrap up on this about, first, the interest in the scheme? Are people now being more conscientized that, listen, I'll be going on pension one day, and has that impacted on the contributions and even people knocking on your doors and all the rest? And what do you tell people out there about the fact that one day it will catch up with them?
I think the interest has been good. In fact, the thing that we've seen a lot is when we go out there and we preach the gospel and tell them what is in it for them, a lot of the people come and who express interest they find out that they are above the age of 45, because we don't take you on when you're above the age of 45. And they always come and they say, so if this good thing was there, how come you haven't told us for this long time, and now we're above the age of 45 and we cannot join? Okay, that it becomes very disconcerting for me. And the answer I always give them is that, well, if you are, they can go and tell their children and their grandchildren. But if you are a young person watching us tonight who is working, and you work for yourself, irrespective of the work that you do, and you haven't thought about protecting the incomes that you are earning today. You haven't thought about the fact that one day, as a matter of certainty, you are either going to turn 60 and retire, or the good Lord will pension you early, and you have children that are relying on you today, or maybe some event will befall you, calamity will befall you, and you cannot go to work. Please, my message to you is come and seek protection with SSNIT. Don't wait till you're above the age of 45 and then come and say, okay, now I can see that I'm getting close to retirement, so what can I do? By that time, it'll be too late. This is what we've been seeing when we go out there. Those who are very enthusiastic to join today and wanted to join yesterday are the ones who are above 45. And so I think my final parting words to your viewers is that they should take advantage of this scheme, because it is the best scheme that exists. It has its own place. It's the only scheme that will say, we will pay you for as long as you live. I mean, I think that if nothing gives peace of mind, I think having the assurance that you will be paid for until the good Lord calls you home is one of those things.
Doc, I appreciate your time so much. And it
Thank you
has
very
been PM Express Business Edition as you look at SSNIT in Ghana today, and even pensions as well. I know the debate will still go on in your homes and offices about the scheme and what they're doing, and whether that will motivate you to join if you are already not a member through this their informal or self-insurance scheme that you have to come and join SSNIT. My name is George Wiafe. Have a great day. This has been PM Express Business Edition.